Hello and welcome. I'm Beth Parkinson and we're back at TechED. It's day 2 and we're really in for a treat today. We've got 2 industry analysts, Matt Littlefield from L&S Research and Craig Reisnick from ARC Advisory. And guys, is this the first time you've been on camera together?
I think so.
I think together, yes.
Okay, fantastic. I know it's going to be awesome. Today we're actually going to get 2 things. We're going to talk about 2 things. One, the state of the industry and what both Matt and Craig are seeing in the market, because they're talking to folks, not just Rockwell, but customers, partners of ours, other competitors in the market. So it's really great to get their point of view at different times of the year. So I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking is happening in the market today. And then also to follow up on what your perspective is on how Rockwell's addressing the market's needs right now and where you see it going. So first up, just generally, what's happened in the market today? What's different even in the last year or 2 years? Matt, you want to start?
Sure, happy to. We just did a study on industrial transformation readiness and looked at both the adoption of technology as well as the adoption of programs supporting change. And so a couple years ago, we were at 50, approaching 2/3 of the market with a transformation program. Now we're at almost 75% of companies have a transformation program in place. So it is a broad-based trend across companies in the manufacturing space. I think the challenge that a lot of companies face today is moving from some of the early stages to scaling and rolling out across the business. So one of the big trends that we see among vendors is the move from selling technology, selling products, to selling solutions and offering solutions to business problems. And I think that at this event is one of the things Rockwell and PTC and others are really highlighting.
Yeah, I think it is amazing. I think people have now proven out that there's capability. All the cool technologies that are out there, they're actually delivering value. But right now, there's a lot of pilots out there, and I think the struggle is trying to figure out how to get mainstream adoption. What are you seeing, Craig? Any other perspectives there?
Well, it's interesting because you're combining a lot of what Matt said and seeing people moving into this, from the stage of, I'd say, the trial balloon into starting to do rollouts and implementation. And then at the same time, you have to be able to prove the financials. Right now, June 2019, there's a lot of economic turbulence right now and some potential headwinds. So one of the things that we're doing and working with our studies and our clients as well is trying to figure out ways to show them the financial proof points. Because to show them, like for example, why do you need to measure costing based on your manufacturing plants in Mexico versus China versus the US? Because now you're going to be in a position, you may now have to make very dynamic supply chain decisions to be able to know what's my cost in Mexico, if there's going to be a 5% tariff or a 10% tariff added to that. We don't know. We don't know certainly between the European Union. We don't know really what's going to be the final result with Brexit. We don't even know what's going to be the final trade deal between the US and China. So companies today, we convert problems into opportunities. And we want these companies today to be able to have the digital transformation technology so they can make quick, agile business decisions. And that's really what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, we are in a really interesting time. Some will say turbulent. Earlier today, we had a speaker really talking about how to take advantage of the headwinds in the market to really improve your business. And I think your point is really good. We've been talking about a concept of the connected enterprise, or how we're helping companies bring the connected enterprise to life. But what we've started to see is this need to take what we've already been doing and extend it into the supply and demand chains. And your point is very accurate, that if you actually have your organization and the data that you need to run your business in order, how are you actually using that to extend into your supply chain so you can have visibility on making the right decisions for your manufacturing processes or industrial and your customers? And what you're bringing up with the tariffs is a good example of why to do that. It's a big topic though. And I think both Rockwell and our customers have been on that journey for a while. Matt, any perspectives given your last study of how people are tackling that?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've seen a lot of companies changing organizationally. So one of the trends now is to hire a chief digital officer. A lot of companies are doing it. We looked at it in our newest study, and one of the things we found is that chief digital officers don't really help when it comes to success and transformation. They may, a lot of companies have them, but they're not necessarily driving success. So it's more about what the chief digital officer does that makes the difference, not whether or not you have one. And most of these roles are new, so they're still trying to figure it out. And one of the big differences that we've seen is companies that try and just do top-down approaches to transformation seem to top out pretty quick. And those are the stalled and failed ones. The ones that inspire and do top-down as well as bottom-up are the ones that are having the most success. So again, going back to this event, when you see the number of labs that are here, the number of training exercises for folks who are really doing the transformations, the people who are on the floor making the change, that's why it's important to have events like today.
Yeah, I think it's, I appreciate your point of view on that. I think it's interesting because there was a push on getting that executive perspective, that chief digital officer. But your point was they're almost more evangelists of what's possible. And if they don't get the business leaders and IT leaders on board to really bring the organization along, they're going to stall out. Just like a lot of folks who are just starting in small pilots in each plant are stalling out as well. So it's really got this top-down, bottom-up perspective. Well, thanks for that. I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, since you're seeing everybody in the market, what are some of the areas that you think Rockwell's taking steps are that are helping companies in this market execute?
Well, I think that one thing that Rockwell has done maybe better than anybody else in the space is certainly the aspect of partnerships. I mean, going back to Encompass partners and solution providers, which certainly in the 20 years I've been covering Rockwell has certainly was strong then, is even stronger today. But bringing some of those partnerships up to a higher level, as you've done over the years with companies like Cisco and Microsoft, Anderson Hauser and Fanuc, and even taking it to the next level, let's say with PTC, by making an 8.3% equity investment in PTC. So now what it does is it recognizes, I mean, Rockwell's always recognized that they've never, why don't you work with the expert in every subject rather than trying to be the expert in every subject. So I think one of the things that we've certainly seen at this event, and certainly as we've tried to get into some of the sessions, especially the labs and the PTC
blocked,
session, they're very blocked. I think there's
early next year.
I think there's 2,500 people registered, which I think is a record.
Yep.
So I think you're in a position now where there's a thirst to learn, because with phenomenons like IT, OT convergence, people from OT want to learn what IT is doing, and vice versa. IT is always now learning about what's long product life cycles, and IT is learning a lot about real time. Yeah. And we're just seeing a lot of those phenomenons happen at this show. So it's interesting to see the cross-pollination, the people that are attending these labs.
Yeah, I think we are seeing a real interesting mix of people who are attending. I know, Matt, we were talking about how what's happening in this era for industrial isn't about the big bang or the long ERP type projects that we've seen in the past. It is more about Agile. Can you point out some of the examples that you've seen where we're really trying to help people get those wins faster?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Nobody wants a big bang. They want to prove out local use cases, show the value, and then build on those use cases. And when I look just generally at the Rockwell PTC partnership, both companies have very broad portfolios. There could be a much broader boil the ocean, look at our whole portfolio stacks and how they fit together.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot there. But the message is focused, which I think is important and is one of the reasons why I think there's so much success for ThingWorx and Rockwell together in the marketplace. It's a very focused message on transformation, on analytics, on IoT, and not distracted with all the other things the companies do.
Yeah, I think what I think is exciting is just last year, we announced the relationship between Rockwell and PTC, and it's been a different type of activity in the last year. There's, as you mentioned, equity investment, but really how we're aligning the joint teams to go after really helping customers to deliver really first use applications, early wins, but then recognizing that we need to help scale.
Well, I think the thing when you talk about scale is sometimes when we go into the plants that are your customers, or you're going in even jointly with PTC, and sometimes the beginning of the discussion is IoT and like ThingWorx. But then all of a sudden you start talking about some of the other technologies like augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality. And they recognize that they have access to Vuforia, which was that PTC acquired several years ago. And what we find is that in many cases, as the baby boomers are retiring and being replaced by a smaller number of millennials, the millennials are walking the factory floor and they don't necessarily understand what's behind all those dusty cabinets. The person who retired, the database was up here in many cases. So tools like augmented reality give them the tools to have like a digital assistant on the factory floor to kind of guide them onto what's going on in each piece of equipment, and also from a safety perspective that they don't realize that a motor control center might have high voltage, and it's probably good to be a little bit careful. So I think you're in a situation now where the tools, that is really the scalability point to get an entry into some of these plants, and both for augmented reality and also for training for virtual reality. Because most of the people that you're hiring in the plants are certainly more comfortable with Fortnite than they are with industrial automation. And if you say PID, they may say, what does PID mean?
Yeah, right.
So I think they're in a situation that by having the augmented reality tools to guide them on the factory floor, give them the virtual reality tools that give them the training using tools that they're comfortable with, it also makes it a more attractive job, because as much of them may want to work on Wall Street and be hedge fund managers, this gives them an opportunity to maybe at least apply some of the technologies that they're learning and are comfortable with, and applying it into their job.
Yeah, great. Well, it's so interesting with the augmented virtual reality area. A year ago, a lot of folks were like, I don't see it, just sounds fun. Well, guess what? It's now mainstream. There's a lot of folks using it for real time. We're seeing it here. You'll see it next week at LiveWorks if anybody's going. And I want to thank both you guys, Craig and Matt, for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. We're here at TechEd 2019, and keep following us on #RockLive.